Am I wrong for not wanting my husband's child to be part of our life? Over 5 years ago, my 38 female husband, 38 male, and I separated. He had an affair. He entered therapy, and eventually I decided I wanted to see if we could rebuild our marriage. I forgave him, and over the last 5 years, he changed a lot. I opted to not know everything that happened while we were separated, but I knew there was a one-night stand. He truly put in work to become a healthier and a better man. We've been married 16 years, if that's relevant. A month ago, he was contacted by the one-night stand. She just got out of jail. I can barely believe I'm even typing these words. And she told him that 5 years ago when they hooked up, she got pregnant, and that if he didn't Venmo her $500, she would tell his wife that he has a child. He was shocked because this was the first time he heard about this. She won't agree to a DNA test willingly, so he has to get a court order. She also says she slept with multiple partners, so she isn't 100% sure he's the father. Obviously, this sounds sketchy, but she sent him pictures of the child, and I would be shocked if he wasn't the father. I feel devastated. My feelings are complex, but I'm in therapy, so that's not why I'm posting this. The child has been in the grandparents' custody for years, along with the child's sibling, since the mom has been in and out of jail. I've been through a lot. I have diagnosed PTSD, and sometimes it is not manageable, but I am in recovery. I don't know what to do because I don't want this child in my life. I have a stepmom, and I know what it feels like to know you're resented. My stepmom didn't have to tell me she resented me for me to know. I sensed it. Later in life, she confessed as much to me and apologized. We have a good relationship now, but being resented made an impression on me as a child. The thought of having to explain to our family and friends, let alone our other children, who this child is, absolutely guts me. I feel like puking just thinking about it. It was humiliating enough to be cheated on and have everyone know my business. I lost friends when I chose to let him come home and chose to try to restore our marriage. One of my former friends told me that she lost respect for me and that she was disgusted that I would give him a chance to hurt me again. How would I tell our kids? If this child is happy, healthy, and being loved by her grandparents, which appears to be the case, isn't it kinder to let her keep living her life without interruption? I don't know if I could ever see this child as anything other than the product of my husband's unfaithfulness. Obviously, I support him sending child support if the DNA test does prove he is the father. Am I the asshole for not wanting this child in my life? Be honest. Are the only other options be 1, playing stepmom to a child who will forever be a reminder of my husband's unfaithfulness, or 2, divorcing the man I love with all of my heart because I don't want to stand in the way of him being in the child's life. So he cheated on you, and then while you guys were not talking, he slept with someone else, and that person got pregnant, not the first person he cheated on with. Why are these men sleeping with women without protection? That's my thing. You know, I'm really big on forgiveness, right? But there's a saying, it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. He cheated on you twice. 2 times. The card is in your hands. Hard to say I'm not in that situation, but you gotta like self-love, walk away. You're hurting so much. You should not be in therapy and going through all these mental hula hoops to be happy in your marriage. I, 32 female, don't think my little brother, 18 male, knows how important he is to me. My little brother was born when I was 14 years old. He was kind of a surprise baby, but it didn't stop me from loving him the day I laid my eyes on him. When I was 16, our parents got into a car accident that resulted in their deaths. My little brother and I moved in with our grandma. I had a close relationship even though we had a huge age gap. I decided to go to my flagship university so I could commute from home. I had a great social life at college, but nothing was better than coming back home to my little brother. When I was 22, our grandma passed away. I had a job in my own home, so I took my little brother in. I grew even closer to him. It was a pleasure to see him grow into a fine young man. As he got older, we began to develop similar interests. Ever since he was 14, we played video games together every Friday night. He would come to me for advice on anything. We could talk with each other for hours. He was the best thing about coming home from work. However, things changed 2 years ago. I met my now fiancé at the time. When I first introduced him to my little brother, he seemed happy I found someone. However, he started to keep his distance. Whenever I tried to spend time with him, he would find excuses to avoid me. He barely talks to me or shares anything with him. It's been like this for 2 years. Here's the issue. I can't love anyone more than my little brother. I love my fiancé as much as my little brother. They both have each of my heart. My fiancé is okay with this. I get that you're supposed to love your spouse and the kids you have with them more than your own family of origin, but I don't think I can operate like that. Both are equally important in my eyes. I'm honestly fine if my brother doesn't feel that way in return. I don't think my little brother knows how I feel. I want him to know that even after I get married, I would still try to make time and space for him in my life. I would still crave alone time with him. I want him to know that I want to have a dance with him on my wedding. I would also like to dance with him in the future at his wedding if he is ever okay with it. I want to know his partner and his future kids. I want him to be by my side when I leave this world. He's going to college soon and I don't know if I should share how I feel about him. You should share it and share it fast. He's at an age where maybe he sees you in a relationship and happy and doesn't want to hinder your happiness with your fiance. Never leave things unsaid and open to misunderstandings. Honesty is like always 100% the best way. My ex ghosted me, so I found a way he'll have to see my face every day. This was a while ago and I'm over him now, but about 2 years ago I dated a coworker. I know that now that was a mistake. I was barely in my 20s when this happened. We started as friends and hung in the same circles until we couldn't deny the attraction anymore. A couple months into dating, we were planning on moving in together and maybe even getting married one day. We were inseparable and he was so affectionate with his words and actions. But then I got a promotion that required me to go out of state. We decided to do long distance for a while and I would keep a lot of my stuff at his place until I moved back. Then we would live together. Unfortunately, a month into long distance, he ghosted me. There was no indication that things were going wrong, so I was devastated and blindsided. I had never been in a relationship before, so he was my first heartbreak. But the most annoying part was that he refused to acknowledge my existence as just friends. We were in similar group chats and he would just skip over my comments. He would go out of town when I came in town and he would get mad at me for hanging out with our mutual friends. I found this out through the grapevine. It was one of the few things I knew about him after the breakup. Eventually I moved on and met someone new, but I was still very hurt that someone who I once considered a great friend would just cut me out of my life for no reason. So here's where the petty revenge comes in. We have a company homepage that shows different slides of employees doing things like receiving awards or special events. The homepage plays on the TV screens at work as well as the computers. One day, the company sent an email asking for pictures with a prompt, so I chose the prettiest picture of myself I could find with a nice fluffy paragraph to go with it. Now, the ex that ghosted me has to see my face every time he walks into work and opens his computer. A revenge a year in the making.
I went on a girls' holiday to Ibiza and made a massive mistake. Story time. So as you know, I recently went on holiday with all of my girls to Ibiza. We had an incredible holiday. This whole holiday was perfect, apart from one thing I did. Feel so let down by myself. To start with, by the way, I'm just applying my Maybelline Superstay Skin Tint. So the day comes when we are going on a boat day. I got ready. I was wearing actually this skin tint because it is so good. This is one of my summer essentials. Really nice coverage, lasts really well, gives you that gorgeous summer glow. One thing that was really important to me, because I was on the boat, I needed it to resist like sweat, the humidity. This did just that. It was me that made the mistake. Right, now I'll go in and do the rest of my makeup. So we're on this boat. I'm not feeling the best. We take a seasickness tablet. By the time we get to lunch, I'm on the floor, right? I'm so tired. I'm struggling to keep my head up. I just felt like I was being rude. So I was like, I'll go back to the boat. I'll have a little sleep. It will all be fine. So I get back to the boat and I'm like, great, I can just go to sleep. That is not what I should have done. I rest my head down, fell asleep for a long time. 6 hours after I'd put my SPF on. Not only that, I fell asleep with the most stupid shaped sunglasses on ever. I hate to admit this, but I burnt my face quite badly. What I should have done is just topped up with the Garnier Ombre Solaire Super UV Over Makeup Mist. Even though I had a beautiful base on, which was still intact by the end of the day, unfortunately, my face is a little bit pink. This product is so good. All you need to do is give it a good shake before you use it. That's the only thing I'll say. And then whenever you're ready, every 2 to 3 hours, give her a spray. Let me show you how it works. And that would have been so quick to do. Honestly, these two are an absolute dream combination, which I should have used. And I'm so ashamed of myself. So don't do a tatty. Don't burn your face. Get these two, they'll save your life. I found out that my sister's boyfriend was also my boyfriend 5 years into our relationship. Story time. So me and my boyfriend, who we will call Steve, have been together for 5 years. He was always around at my family's home. He came on pretty much every family holiday. So of course when he's around and when he's on holiday, my sister was also there too. We'll call my sister Amy. So one day Steve's in the shower. I look over and I start to see like loads of random things in his room that I've never seen before. And these things were like girl things, right? I'm talking like claw clips, bobby pins, hair ties. So I thought, I'm gonna investigate this situation. I started to go through all of his bedside drawers. And that was when I find a claw clip, which is very distinctive, right? I actually have it here. I've only ever seen one claw clip like this, and that was the one that was owned by my sister. I go full FBI mode. This one evening, Steve says he's busy, so we can't see each other. And funnily enough, when I asked if I could hang out with Amy, she was also busy. I played it that I was going to sleep and that I was going to get an early night. And I waited for my sister to leave. She pulls out, it's go time. I jump into my car and I'm still in my pajamas, and then it gets serious. She starts to go a direction that only I know one person lives in. She drives all the way to Steve's house. As soon as she pulls in, the door swings open, Steve meets her, and they just start making out in the doorway. A bit of privacy, guys, come on. To say I was heartbroken was an absolute understatement, but I didn't act. I stayed very calm. I stayed very demure, very cutesy, very mindful of the plan. I had never ever been through a boyfriend's phone before, but you know, certain circumstances cause for a little snooping. I find so many pictures of him and Amy kissing, other bits, and I'm scrolling down this motherfucker's timeline, right? Watching the date get longer and longer away. I'm sending myself all of the evidence. I'm going to expose this shit. So, my sister's birthday was last week, and she wanted to have a big projector with like loads of baby pictures of her as she's growing up. And I was like, I can sort that for you, babe. The whole entire family is there. My friends, her friends, Steve's friends, Steve's family. Everyone is there. Loads of gorgeous baby pictures of Amy pop up, and I was like, guys, I have a special presentation to show you all for the birthday girl. And that is when I showed the whole party the evidence I had found projected on a big wall against our house. But that wasn't all. I kind of wanted to take it a little bit step further. I'm watching the presentation, I'm looking at the cake, I'm looking at Amy, I'm watching the presentation, I'm looking at the cake, I'm looking at Amy, I'm looking at the cake, I'm looking at Amy. And as I decided to make my grand exit from the party, I threw that cake in her face. I guess she did get to have her cake and eat it too.
Let's go ahead and read this update. I wrote a post a month ago regarding my ex friends with benefits Mira's reaction to me breaking up with her before dating my coworker Allie. Things were really crazy during the last month, and finally I am able to move on from the stupidest mistake of my life. Most of you made me realize that Mira and I were so much more than friends with benefits, as we did most things couples would do, but just never labeled our relationship. Many of you also suggested that I needed to stop being friends with Mira before starting to date Allie. Unfortunately, that was not my decision, and Mira blocked me and removed me from all socials after I told her I was flirting with and going on dates with Allie. It hurt a lot, but I respected her decision and gave her space. As I mentioned, I went on a date with Allie that weekend. The date was wonderful and we talked for several hours. Allie invited me to her place when I went to drop her off. Although Allie was doing everything right, I could not shake the feeling that I was doing something wrong. Even as we made out and undressed, I just felt like I was cheating on Mira and was so distracted. At the end of the night, Allie wanted me to sleep over, but I went home. It would have been the most perfect evening, but I felt really guilty. I felt like I was cheating on Mira and breaking her heart. The next day, I talked to Allie and explained to her that I might not be ready for starting a relationship and told her about Mira. I told her I broke it off before I went on a date with her, but needed some time to get my head straight. Although she was sad, she was graceful and asked me to take my time. I knew in my heart that I had made a terrible mistake and wronged Mira on so many levels. I spent the next few weeks trying to call Mira every day. She must have blocked my number and I could not reach her. We lived close to each other and I could see her every day, but just did not have the courage to talk to her directly. Eventually, 2 weeks ago, I decided to go to her apartment unannounced. She was not happy to see me, and I asked her to just talk to me for 10 minutes and I will go away. She agreed, and I could see she was not really happy with me being there. I told her about my date with Allie. I did not leave out any details, and I told her that we slept together. She was crying and screaming at me about why I was telling her about it and trying to torture her. I told her that it was important that I'm honest, and told her at that moment I realized why she said I was cheating on her, because it felt wrong to me to be with Allie. I told her I was just thinking about her the whole time, and hence I wanted to talk to her and apologize. I apologized a lot and we both cried. She then asked me to get out. I told her what I did was horrible, but I just wanted to ask her out on a date, and I have never felt so sure about the fact that I love her and want to be with her. At this point, I was not really able to read her reaction, but she walked towards me and started punching me on my arm. She was not holding back, and it did leave some bruises, but she was crying and then hugged me. I have never felt so relieved in my life and did not let her go for a long time. It's so easy to plan a perfect date when you have been been best friends with that person for a long time. We spent the whole day together, and in the evening, I FaceTimed my parents and told them that I was out on a date with my girlfriend, Mira. My mom was very happy, and there were a lot of screaming from my little sisters. They talked to Mira for a long time, and all of them were just laughing, which made me realize I made the right decision. We spent the last week telling Mira's parents and also all of our friends. Things are moving pretty quickly now. Mira has been really eager to move in together, and at this point, I feel like I owe her everything that makes her happy. We had all the real discussions, like kids, career, marriage, and we seemed to be aligned on most of the things. Luckily, Mira decided to keep the events of the last month a secret, and we have not told them to anyone. Overall, I am really happy at this point, and I will make sure I never hurt Mira again. Somebody said in chat, easy to plan a date when you've been dating someone for 3 years. What do we think, y'all? Okay, and I shouldn't say this for absolute certainty, but I'm just saying, for Mira, she's gonna remember this. This isn't a, oh my gosh, finally, I got the guy, and now I'm like, everything's right in the world. If this is how both of them wanted this to end, then congratulations. I hope for the absolute best. I hope that Allie is living her best life. I hope that Mira is living her best life. OP, I hope you live a good life and everybody happy. And that's the end of this story. Am I the asshole for refusing to re-propose after my fiance lost her engagement ring? I, 29 male, proposed to my fiance, 28 female, 6 months ago with a beautiful ring that I saved up for over a year to buy. She was thrilled, and we've been happily planning our wedding since then. Last weekend, we went on a trip to the mountains for a little getaway. During one of our hikes, she realized that her engagement ring was missing. She was devastated, and we spent hours retracing our steps, but we couldn't find it. When we got back home, she asked if I could get a new ring and re-propose to her to recreate that special moment. I told her that I understand how she felt, but buying another ring of the same quality would be financially challenging for me right now. I suggested that we could either wait until I could afford a similar ring or get a more modest ring for now and upgrade it in the future. She was upset and said that it wouldn't feel the same with a different ring and that the magic of the proposal was lost. She insisted that she wanted the moment to be recreated just as it was before. I told her that the important thing was our commitment to each other, not the ring or the proposal itself. She accused me of not caring enough about her feelings and said that if I truly loved her, I would find a way to make it happen. Now there's a lot of tension between us, and she's been very distant ever since. I feel like I'm being practical, but she feels like I'm not valuing our engagement enough. Am I the asshole for refusing to re-propose with a new ring under these circumstances? If you really loved me, I don't like that. I don't like that. If somebody's using that in like a serious tone, I get it. You want that nice ring, but you probably should have put insurance on it. Oh my. The ring is just symbolic. I honestly want him to go up to her and be like, "Hey, babe, yeah, let's go pick out a ring. This is how much we can do right now. But wedding needs to be postponed. We have to cancel this, and this for the wedding so that yeah, whatever." I want him to do that so bad, and I want to see what she says. Point blank. Period. You're not an asshole. What's everyone's thoughts? This is a wow.
I, 24 female, bi, and my boyfriend, 31 male, has a lot more experience in bed than me. It's honestly the best sex I've ever had. He can get me to finish whenever he wants, but I've never been able to get him off with oral. He always says that it's him and I'm not doing anything wrong, but he always either has to end up doing the whole deed or finishing himself off. Having a threesome with another girl has been a fantasy of mine for a long time. He always hesitated when I brought it up because he thinks that relationships get ruined that way. But I wore him down and I got my really, really hot friend who was also curious to agree with it. She and I already had fooled around with each other before my boyfriend and I got together, and he clearly found that to be a huge turn on when I told him. My boyfriend knows that I'm bi, and we openly discuss which women we find attractive. We both pretty much agree that she's the hottest girl we know. Maybe it was a bad idea in retrospect, but it felt like the most logical option. I don't think he would have readily agreed to it if it was anyone else. Did I coerce him? Kind of, I guess. It's not that he wasn't into it, just that he felt like threesomes complicate relationships. Honestly though, when I told him that this specific friend was willing to join us, he started to change his tune. He honestly would have been happy just getting to watch the two of us go at it. Him getting to join in basically sealed the deal. We got together last night. I was super into it at first, but I started to feel awful when I realized how much better than me she is in bed. Like full on bucking on top of him, making noises, bouncing, etc. Then she finished him off with her mouth and he just fully exploded like a fountain. He looked like his eyes were going to roll into the back of his head. He's never been anywhere close to that way when it's just the two of us, and I know it's my fault. Should I tell him how I feel? How do I even approach this? The whole thing was my idea in the first place, and now I feel like I can never live up to expectations now. Part 2. I asked for a threesome, but she was much better than me in bed. The threesome was kind of a birthday present to me from both of them. They paid a lot of attention to me at first and got me off multiple times. The last round was intense enough that I couldn't have handled any more stimulation, so I was content just laying there beside him and kissing his neck while enjoying the show. Was it just the excitement of being with two women? Sadly, no, it definitely wasn't. Someone said in the comment that my friend corn effed him, and that does pretty much sum it up. It was pretty hot to watch. She went to town on him. I'm not surprised he climaxed the way he did. He probably never stood a chance. Can't I just copy what she did? I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm wired to do what she can. I don't think that I can be that aggressive or animalistic. I do want to try and get better at giving head. It was kind of eye-opening to see what she was capable of and the way that he reacted to it. But I don't think that I'm ever going to be the girl that can just shove him down and bang his brains out. Did my boyfriend get her off the way that he gets me off? Yeah, he did. She definitely didn't regret joining in. Anyway, so I talked to him last night and I made him promise to answer all my questions honestly. I asked him what he thought of the threesome. He said that I was right. He loved it. Was super happy I talked him into it and he's open to doing it again. He probably thought that this would make me happy, but not gonna lie, my heart sank a little. Then I brought up how hard she made him climax and that I never seen him react that way with me before. He went quiet for a bit. I reminded him that he promised to be honest. He said he loves doing it with me, but sex with her was a lot more intense and she basically was relentless, wouldn't stop until he came. I can't argue with that. I have to admit, I gave up when I'm giving head. She went at him in a way that I never have. He saw that I was a bit self-conscious and said right away that he's not looking to be with anyone else. He loves me and would never want me to feel otherwise. Then he suggested that maybe we need some time alone together and offered to take me on a trip next weekend. He held me super tight on the couch tonight and kept kissing me on the forehead and telling me he loved me. Maybe I'm fucked up, but it kind of made me feel worse to think that this was all my idea and now I made him feel guilty for giving me what I wanted. So yeah, I don't know where to go from here. I can 100% guarantee you he wants to do it again. Pretty sure she does too. Part of me wants to as well. The more I think about what happened, the more turned on I get. Maybe I can try and get her to teach me the next time around. I doubt he would complain, but it's hard to get past the fact that she was easily able to do something for him that I pretty much have never been able to do. I'm planning on abandoning my family as soon as I turn 18. My family sucks. I, 17 male, turn 18 in 2 weeks and I'm getting the fuck out of here as soon as the clock strikes midnight. My parents have extreme bias towards my younger brothers, 16 and 15 male. It's been like this forever. I have no idea why. I've always been the one who had to do all the chores in the house. I also have always been forced to play every single sport I possibly could to the point where my schedule was packed 365 days a year. My father told me he would teach me to be a real man, but my brothers never had to do any of that shit. They're both fat, lazy fucks who sit around and play video games all day and all night. They miss school at least 30% of the year and are constantly spoiled rotten by my parents. They already have thousands of dollars from birthdays, Christmases, and other holidays. As soon as I turned 12, I was told I would no longer ever be receiving gifts from my parents other than bare essentials. I was told I had to pay for my phone and any other expenses I wanted and to never ask for anything. I wasn't able to own a phone or anything really special for myself until I was 16 because I couldn't find any actual jobs that paid good money. My parents also expect me to take care of my younger brothers when I'm an adult. My younger brothers have both decided that they will not be going to college and do not plan on working a day in their lives. My father told me, "We kept you alive, you owe it to us." Screw you. I'm leaving a nasty letter on the table when I leave and changing my phone number, emails, and everything. They will never be able to contact me no matter how hard they try. I know that my younger brothers are going to be screwed for life since they have zero experience on how to survive in the real world, but I don't care. That's my parents' burden now. I hope they go broke from having to fund my brother's lifestyles and I hope they lose everything. I have no sympathy for these people and I will never feel bad no matter what happens to them. The only thing I owe to my parents is the fact that because of their shitty treatment over the years, I am well capable of surviving on my own in the world. I'll be going to college to study finance in Virginia. They have no idea I've been accepted to any college, never even asked. And I'm also very physically fit due to playing 6 sports a year. They took away my entire childhood and I will never forgive them for it. They can all go screw themselves. Part 2. Leaving my toxic family when I turn 18. I'm happy to report that I'm officially gone. So things have been crazy stressful, but I'll sum it up. I changed my number a few days ago by calling my SIM card provider. Then I went and got a copy of my birth certificate since I don't know where my actual birth certificate was. And I also made sure to check that my bank account was secure and not shared with my parents. I purchased a plane ticket to fly into Dulles International Airport in Virginia, just outside where I'll be attending college in Fairfax. Finally, I called one of my cousins, whom I'm very close with, and asked him to please pick me up around 12:30 in the morning. He agreed with my decision to leave and told me that he was proud of me for taking action to improve my life. I packed all my stuff after everyone had gone to sleep and I waited. I decided to keep my note to my family short and sweet. All I wrote down was that I was moving to go to college in California and that I was never coming back. So my cousin came and picked me up. We went to the police station where I gave them my proper identification and informed them that I'm not missing and I'm leaving on my own accord now that I am 18. They told me that they'll keep it in mind and watch out for a call. I got a few hours of sleep at my cousin's and then flew out to New Orleans International at 6 in the morning. I sat in my college dorm room 950 miles from home and had never been happier in my entire life. Life has been so good. I've been in contact with my cousin who helped me and also a few family members from back home. He said that my mother came to their house the day after I left to talk to my aunt about me leaving. She cried and gave my aunt this whole sob story about how she can't believe I would abandon them, and my aunt told her maybe she shouldn't have treated me so wrongly throughout my entire life, which caused a huge fight and ended my mom being thrown out of their house. So it seems that me leaving has caused pretty much the uproar I imagined. I'm in a better mental state than I've been in a very long time. I feel so relieved and it just feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
Today I messed up by expecting my family to pay for my birthday dinner. Yesterday I turned 18 years old. For the past 6 years, like clockwork, every day on my birthday, we go to the same place for dinner and I'd always get the same thing. For those who are a bit confused, I have extreme OCD and high functioning autism, which means I'm very well regulated and like things to stay the same way that they've always been. Anyway, back to the story. Every year on my birthday we go to Applebee's. The first thing I would get is steak and shrimp parmesan with a side of loaded mashed potatoes and cheesy steamed broccoli. Hate me or not, with a side of mozzarella sticks. In total, it's around $30. A bit expensive, I know. I really couldn't tell that something was off until a bit later, because when me, my mother, my stepfather, and my older brother sat down, they really didn't say anything. I was confused at first and started tapping my fingers on one another like I always do. The conversation went a bit like this. My mother said, "Well?" I was rather confused. "Well?" My mother said, "Aren't you gonna call a waiter over?" This gave me extreme anxiety. I have extreme issues with speaking to people and I tend to stutter and I get very, very scared, if that's the right word. I asked her if she could do it and she does it in a huff. My dad and brother are staring nonchalantly. As she calls the waiter over, the alarm bells are ringing in my head. This is never how it went before. As the waiter gets to the table, he asks everyone what they want and everyone orders. As he gets to me, my mother stops him and tells him, "Separate bill." This is when my heart began beating very fast. I don't know a job. All the money I get is from our neighbors raking leaves. I just kind of freeze. I don't really say anything and I get really bad stomachache from the anxiety. This is where I'm conflicted on whether I'm an asshole or not. My mother would explain at the table that now that I'm 18, I should be able to pay for my own things. I was already feeling nauseous from the situation, so I said that I don't have the money. My mom kind of huffs and shoos the waiter away. This soured the dinner party. However, my mom also paid for my 23-year-old brother. My family was calling me an entitled little a-hole the whole ride home. When I got home, I just ran to my room and cried. They've been ignoring me the whole day. I may be bad at social cues, but my family has never acted like this before. I mean never. They've been treating me horrible the whole day. I feel very angry and upset. If I would have been warned, I would have saved my raking money. I'm just very confused and I'm terrible with social cues. My family gets a little tight on money. I guess I really should have asked before I assumed that they were going to pay it for me. But I missed out on my birthday dinner because I wasn't mature enough to bring my own money. I'm just going to make leaves for a couple of weeks to order it from takeout. I'm 29 female. When I was about 10, my mom married my stepfather. I have an older brother, Luke, who was 15. My stepfather had Amy and Ada, who were 12 and 11. We didn't come from a privileged background. My mom was a minimum wage worker and my dad was absent. Our stepfather had a very good income. Their deal was that they wouldn't combine finances and they would each contribute equally to the household, and then each takes care of their children with their spare money. So my mom never had anything for us, and my stepfather was spending big on his kids. This included holidays, which Luke and I were excluded from. Stepfather would pay for mom, but not us. Luke and I also shared a room, even though Amy and Ada had their own rooms and we had a guest room, because stepfather insisted that he was paying more towards the house, so my mom's share would only get her one room for the kids. Luke and I were constantly teased for this situation by the three of them as we grew up. My mom said that we should always be thankful because if it wasn't for our stepfather, we would not be living in a nice home in a good neighborhood. Luke and I became determined to be able to take care of ourselves so that we wouldn't need to take nonsense from anyone. We have both done quite well with our careers and finances, and we are in a very good place. Since turning 18 and moving out, my relationship with the three of them has been very limited. I wouldn't call us friends, but we can exist peacefully if we are in the same place. I visited my mom recently and my stepfather mentioned that Amy wants to buy a house now that she's pregnant. He asked me if I'm able to help out a little bit with a deposit. The house is $500K and she needs a $150K deposit. She has $100K so far, $25K on her own, $25 from her mom, and $50 from the stepfather. He was asking if Luke and I can help cover the extra $50K and he said that he'd pay us back as part of the inheritance eventually. I said no. He insisted that Luke and I both own our houses outright and with our incomes, so we should be able to help. I said whether I can or not is irrelevant. My answer is no. He reminded me that Luke and I each gave $10K to our cousin for buying a house as a gift. Amy is my sister and he's offering to pay us back. I said that was our choice then. This is my choice now. He insisted we should be able to be willing to help out the family if we're able to. I replied back, like how you helped me and Luke when we were kids? Everyone just went quiet when I said this. After a while, he said if we went back in time, he'd have done things differently. Treated all four of us equally. I said that's good of you, but that doesn't make you entitled to my money now. He said he knows he's not entitled, that's why he's asking and promising to pay it back. I said the answer is still no. Not entitled to a loan either. My mom later told me that I could have turned him down without being an asshole or bringing up child play, which he already feels guilty about. Am I in the wrong for refusing to help my stepsister with her house purchase and telling her and my stepfather that it's because of how they treated me as a child? Today I messed up by talking to my partner while they were asleep. I came home to find my partner asleep, so I carefully crawled into bed with them. I happened to have a lot on my mind, so after some time I started to speak quietly to them. I've never done this before, but it was cathartic to say my thoughts out loud. Since they were asleep, I told them things that I would never say to them if they were conscious. I am diagnosed with a major depressive disorder as well as generalized anxiety disorder. Lately, I've been in a severely bad mental state, so bad that I cannot get out of bed, take care of hygiene, go to work, you get the picture. I think about ending it every day. I am in conversation with my school administrators, work supervisor, and HR, family and friends support system for accommodations during this time, and also have been meeting with all kinds of medical professionals in an effort to find something that helps lessen my mental anguish. I've seen many therapists and counselors, have been on multiple medications, do my best to maintain social relationships, and exercise. Nothing has helped, and being honest about how I'm doing when I was able to mask it and function for many years before is taking a toll on me. In talking to my sleeping partner, I told him about how much I hate how little control I have, how exhausted I am in the process of finding something that works. I expressed regret for how my condition is difficult for other people as well, and then I started talking about about the future, a future that I don't see myself in. I talk about my options and plans to take my life, even made a joke about what his highly religious mother would say. Near the end, I rambled on about how amazing my time with him has been, how much I love him, how much I fear leaving him to deal with grief. I made a comment about how I sincerely hopes he finds someone he's excited to spend the rest of his life with after I'm gone. As I'm sure you've guessed it, he wasn't asleep for all of that. As far as I know, he only heard the very last bit, but that was enough to freak him out. As soon as I said my last "I love you" and began to settle to sleep, he spoke. He asked what I meant when I'm gone. He asked if I was serious. In that moment, I didn't want to be honest, but I couldn't lie, so I just didn't answer. I'm sure that was answer enough. I feel so guilty. He really has been the most wonderful person to share the last many years of my life with, and my heart breaks for what I'm going to do to him. I wish I didn't have to further burden him with the knowledge of what's coming. I'm 14 male. I'm American but live in Asia. I'm being vague because I don't want this trace back to me if the situation is as bad as it seems. I don't know if I should give some sort of background or anything, but up until 7 months ago, I lived with my mom, 39, and my dad, 41, plus my little sister, 9. I say was because my sister is no longer here. She's in boarding school. I want to preface this by saying that we're not bad kids. We're half white, half Asian. Well, my grandpa, on my dad's side, got sick 4 years ago and we moved here so my dad could take care of him. Me and my sister worked hard to learn the language. Despite her age, she actually caught on better than me and I was so impressed with her. The issue began with grandma. She would really look down on my sister, and I love my sister and didn't like it one bit. My mom said it's cultural and that I shouldn't make a fuss about it, but it was hard when grandma really started making it obvious. She got me clothes, games, etc., but my sis got no attention. I should mention that 4 years ago, we lived with grandpa and grandma. In that time of me getting spoiled, my sister got reprimanded for everything she did. I swear, it was super unfair you wouldn't believe. Now, just under a year ago, my grandpa passed and my parents decided that we stay here since I already speak and read fluently. Grandma spoke to everyone about how rude and unladylike my sister is, and my parents went along with it, and I completely think that it's wrong. 7 months ago, her and grandma went out and my parents said that she'd be at boarding school for the summer. Just for the summer. After 3 months, I got anxious and asked when she'd be back, and I ended up crying at the question. I was talked to my dad and he said that she loved boarding school so much that she didn't want to come back yet. Like, is that how boarding school works? I don't think so. Maybe I've been watching too much TV or reading too much Reddit, but we're in another country, and I swear what they're doing was emotional abuse. Still, it gets worse. After 5 months, I still hadn't gotten any contact. No message, no letters, nothing. And that's when my dad started making her room into his office space. We actually got into a big fight over it and I ended up with more chores. But he never answered why he was doing it if she'd be back soon. Anyway, it's now been 7 months since the car trip that took my sister away and the final nail in the coffin hit. I was looking through the attic for my mom and found a box with some of her old stuff, including her phone. Why wouldn't she have her phone? I really just want to know if there's anything I can do. No one will tell me which boarding school she's at. I'm told not to worry about it because I'm a child. When I think about it, I can't stop remembering the way that my mom cried that day. I've been imagining the worst, and I'd hate it if it ended up being something along my mind. Part 2. My 9-year-old sister was sent to boarding school but never came back. This is what I finally ended up doing. I was able to get in touch with a few different sources, the least favorite of which was a phone call towards those that help find trafficked children. I knew my family would be investigated and actually went to meet up with another family in that time. So basically, someone close to my age, who I'll keep private, met with me and she had already showed my story to her family. They ended up letting me stay with them for a bit and made the proper calls to make sure it wasn't illegal. I actually even specified that I wasn't running from home and that I'd come back after the investigation. It didn't sit so well with the authorities and I was actually forced to go back home, but it only got stranger from there. I went back home to a completely empty house. Even grandma was gone, so I was allowed to stay with the other family for the time being. They were extremely kind. For a week I didn't get any news and bless my mother's heart, but I was told that I had a home here no matter what the results. So, a few days after a week had passed, I get a call and it turns out that they found my sister. My family had been taken in for questioning and were placed in holding for quite a while. I'm not sure why they didn't tell me this immediately though. I don't actually know the full story, but my sister was living close to 700 kilometers away. Yeah, nearly a whole day's drive. It wasn't summer school or boarding school or anything like that. My dad sold her to get married. My mom was off the hook as 1, I still needed a parent, and 2, she wasn't in on it until it was a decent way in. My dad and grandma have been arrested though, and I'm living back with my mom and my sister now. I'm still in contact with the people that let me stay with them and I'll forever be grateful. I have no idea what would have happened if I was around when the authorities came knocking. She's my angel. On a more depressing note, my sister doesn't speak much, but she seemed to cheer up after I let her read the post. She said that she felt abandoned and alone, among other things, but seeing how I and plenty of strangers gave their hearts for her made her happy and so thankful. Sorry for being so vague on here, but I'm trying to protect identities. This isn't over by a long shot. There are still things that are going to happen, but I have my sister and that's all thanks to you guys. I'm 25 female and my soon-to-be ex, 28 male, is gay and hid that from me. I found out because I caught him cheating, and he admitted that he knew he wasn't attracted to me in that way, but he wanted kids in a normal life. I don't care that he's gay, but I will never forgive him for leading me on so that he could use me to have kids. So it's over. End of story. The problem is, his family are fundamentalists, nut jobs, except for a few members, and his mother is the interfering mother-in-law from hell. Not being related to her anymore is another plus to leaving. His family doesn't believe in divorce, so under the guise of picking up some paperwork and other items I have found that were my exes, she cornered me about how I'm being childish and marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and working through problems, etc. It became apparent that my ex didn't tell his family that he cheated. He told his mom that I was divorcing him because we weren't having sex often enough for me. I tried to be patient and explain that he had cheated, and that's why. I wasn't wasn't going to go into greater detail because I know how his parents are and it's none of their business. Mother-in-law's advice, I kid you not, was that men are just that way, and if I want to have sex more and for him not to stray, that I should make myself more attractive to my husband and be a better wife. I lost the plot completely. It had been a sad and hard day already, and that was the last straw. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I told her that the only thing that would make me more attractive to my ex would be a sex change operation, and that I hope that he and his boyfriend adopted her some grandchildren so that she could finally shut the hell up about it. Not my finest moment, but she just hit the worst and rawest nerves that she could have, and I exploded. It's evidently turned into a huge family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called sobbing that I've ruined his life out of spite. I don't really know how to feel about it. I do feel bad for him that his parents are such awful people and there were just no good outcomes for him, but I also feel like he made his own bed here too. Also, he's known that he was gay since before he met me, so this wasn't a new discovery or admission to himself. He has a boyfriend that he's been dating since 6 months before we were married. I went through his computer after catching him in the act and kicking him out, and found messenger logs and other evidence going back before he even started dating me. He literally set this up so that he could have a nice Mormon family on the surface to keep his family happy. That's it. He never loved me at all. I was just the first girl to express a sustained interest. So, am I in the wrong for outing my ex to get his mother off my back? Part 2. Am I wrong for outing my ex to get his mother off my back? I finally got on radio silence for my ex's immediate family after the incident with my mother-in-law, so that's a relief. I work at the same place with a couple of his extended family members, so I still have to see them, but they haven't brought it up. They all know to contact me only through my lawyer now, and everything big that belongs to my ex has been passed on already, so anything else can be forwarded through legal office now. I shouldn't have to interact directly with them, but it's hard to avoid people forever in a small town. My ex tried to break into the house the day that I posted that story while I was at work, and I pressed charges. I don't know how it's going to shake out or why he's doing this when it can only get him in worse trouble, but I'm letting my lawyer and police handle it, and I'm staying with my parents for a little while until I feel safer. I don't know what's happened between him and his family, and I don't want to try to find out. My ex and I guess his family before the fight with mother-in-law spread rumors about me, and it's made living here very hard. It's a smallish community and people treat me differently now. The local stake president has been kind and, after being told about the cheating, no mention of orientation, said he would try to help with the rumors. I don't want to leave the area, but I'm thinking that I may need to, at least for a while, after the legal stuff is over. My lawyer and I have decided to go for annulment, since that'll take less time and be harder to fight in this case. Hopefully the ex won't contest it. I'm glad that we never combined finances, so there won't be too many joint assets to sort out. I will be okay financially still. This could have been much worse if I was a stay-at-home mom or something. I'm also going to start therapy soon. I was thinking about it anyway, even before all this came out, because I've been feeling depressed over how things were working in my marriage for a while. I don't want to lose any more of myself and my time than I already have, and I hope one day I'll feel good enough to start dating again. Also, please, don't generalize gay people because of my story. There are LGBTQ plus people close to my heart, and they would never do this to anyone. I don't believe that outing people is generally okay, or I wouldn't feel so bad about all this. My ex's family set this up with their intolerance. I wish none of it happened for me and for him. First, let me start by saying that I love my sister. I understand that she's not responsible for her actions, and I don't want to see anyone bad-mouthing her in the comments. I, 24 female, have been married to my husband, 23 male, for 2 years now, dating for 4. After the first Christmas he spent with me and my family, I did my best to avoid spending the holidays with them. We usually make the excuse that my husband is an only child and go visit his parents. When my sister, 30 female, was 17 years old, she was in a horrific car accident. She was in a coma for 3 weeks, spent months in physical and speech therapy, and worst of all, ended up suffering what the doctors say is hypersexuality. I won't get into details, but some of her behaviors are not suited for the public, and they are not voluntary. The doctors tried multiple meds and she's still in therapy, but nothing seems to work. It cost my sister almost all of her friends, multiple jobs, and she's unable to have meaningful relationships so far. The thing is, whenever my husband visits, it seems to get worse. My husband is attractive, and it's obvious that she's attracted to him. Neither of us blames her for that. But if we spend any extended period with her, things become very uncomfortable. This year, my in-laws are going to be in Europe during Christmas, so my parents were very excited thinking that we'll be able to spend it with them. I ended up telling them that we'd be spending it on our own, but that I will be visiting Christmas Day for a couple hours. They were upset, kept insisting to know why we avoid them. I finally said that we don't want to spend the whole holiday trying to redirect my sister's behavior, or trying to dispel the awkwardness when we couldn't. That's when they called me an ableist a-hole. Then they went and told my sister what I said, and now she's crying, saying that I was just like everyone else, that I was also slut-shaming her, even though I know she doesn't do it on purpose. So, am I in the wrong for refusing to spend Christmas with my family because my sister will be there? I'll try to keep this short because I'm planning to go to the bar soon. My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know that I'm not the biological father. I found out when she was about 6 months along. The guy, Brian, approached me at work. "Are you Sarah's boyfriend?" I said yeah and asked what he wanted. He said he was very sorry that he had slept with her and swore that he didn't know that she was with someone. I don't believe that. He then pulled out his phone to show the text between them. They had been sleeping together or linking up for the past year. Then she found out that she was pregnant, and they came to an agreement to just pretend that the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We had been having problems trying for a baby, and all of a sudden she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it, and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie while his child didn't know their real father. So yeah, I told him that I'd keep in touch, and to not say that he said anything just yet. I've had a lot of time to think about it, but ultimately I decided that I wanted to wait until she gave birth, to hurt her in her most vulnerable moment. I'll spare the details, but she went into labor. Baby was born and was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby was the most heartbreaking time of my life. Just knowing that he was not mine hurt me. Once she was all sewn up and comfortable, I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going and I just told her. I know I'm not baby's name's father. You can act all shocked, but I know. Just ask Brian to come. I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificate. She's been calling my phone over and over and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months, but I think that I'm satisfied. I feel really heartbroken though. I was planning on proposing to her the day our baby was born. I was gonna make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well, I'm going to go get shit-faced now. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, married for 2. We've had an amazing relationship. He's always wanted a large family, lots of kids, house with a picket fence, you know the deal. I've never liked children, but everyone I've talked to told me it's different when they're your own. So we went ahead and had a baby. Long story short, it's the worst decision I've ever made. Our daughter is a year old and not a minute goes by where I don't regret my decision. I feel lied to by all the family and friends that pressured me and made me feel like it was something I was supposed to do. Everyone wants kids, they said. Even if you don't think so, you'll be glad you did. I'm kicking myself for listening to them. It's not the screaming, wailing, shrieking. It's not the neediness, the tantrums, or the lack of sleep. It's the fact that it's a lifelong commitment that I can never get out of. This baby is 100% dependent on me and my husband. We don't have a sex life anymore. Hell, we barely have a marriage anymore. The baby took over all of our time and energy. I feel so guilty for feeling this way. I've been to therapy and I'm still going, but what can really help with this situation? I resent my baby for taking away the life that I loved. I can never have that back. Every damn day I wish I could go back and not have her. I should never have listened to anyone else. I'm at the end of my rope. What can I do? I don't want to divorce him. He's been my partner for a long time and I don't want to throw that away. My hubby is wonderful with her. We both work full-time jobs. My mother watches her while we work. I cook dinner every night and he just bath, change, watch over her routine while I do that. This is going to sound bad, but I actually try to make sure that my time with her is limited because there's only so much noise that I can take. And she gets very loud. No health issues, just a vocal baby. So he takes care of her about 70% of the time that we are around her. He knows there will never be another one as long as we're together. He's seen the strain on me and on our marriage, and while he's good with her, he admitted it's exhausting. Part 2. I regret having a child with my husband. It's been 3 months. We split up. It's been the worst thing, even worse than I thought. I ended up coming clean and showing him my original post, and he didn't take it well. He was confused, said that I was a great mother, and he had no idea why I felt that way. I told him I would like to go to couples therapy with him, so that he could see how I feel when our emotions aren't going haywire and I can be rational. Basically, I suggested he sit with me when I go to therapy, and he agreed. At first, he was more than willing to work with me. He said he would do most of the childcare, which he already does. He said he'd let me do all the fun stuff, playing with her, reading with her, singing, cuddling. To me, none of that is fun, and suggested that maybe we could even get separate housing. We both make good money. I could get a 1-bedroom apartment and see him for dinner, and just go to sleep at a different place. That's when it hit him that I was really serious about not wanting her. He started crying, told me this wasn't what he expected when we said our vows, and that I might have said some things like, well, I didn't expect to be pressured into having a child that I didn't want, but that happened. I stayed with my female coworker for a few days to calm down. We went no contact for those days. When I came back home, all my stuff was packed and by the door. He was sitting on the couch, staring into space. Our baby was down for a nap, so we had to talk quietly. He said he was going to file for divorce and ask for sole custody. I said okay. He seemed sad that I wasn't going to fight for her. I ended up getting my own apartment like I said I would, but it's lonely. I'm fucking heartbroken. I haven't seen my daughter in 3 months, and a small part of me aches for what could have been. But overall, I feel relieved that I'm not dealing with that constant stress anymore. I miss my husband more than I can express. I've gained 30 pounds since our fight. On the weekends when I don't have work, I just binge watch Netflix and don't shower. The reality of the situation is that no one was going to end up happy, but at least he loves her and I know he's taking good care of her. I haven't gotten divorce papers yet, so maybe he isn't as dead set on the breakup as I thought. His parents, of course, have taken his side. My own mother is currently not speaking to me. I have never felt more alone in my entire life. I'm getting the hate from my own family, saying that I'm being stupid and throwing my life away for no reason. No one has taken my side. So yes, I've got my freedom. Yes, I removed myself from the situation, and yes, my daughter will be better off without me. I do not consider this a Pyrrhic victory at all. I consider this one of the worst periods of my life. I, female 26, was invited to my sister's 18th birthday a few days ago at a restaurant. My husband didn't come because he said he had a meeting dinner with some clients. This made my family feel let down, especially my sister who wanted him there, and also her 18th birthday is a big deal to her obviously. To my surprise, when I arrived I noticed that my husband was having his meeting at the same place. His table was right in the corner and he had about 4 men sitting with him. My parents and the guests saw him as well. I waved for him and he saw me but ignored me. He obviously was as surprised as I was. My parents asked why he didn't even come to the table to acknowledge them after the cake arrived. I got up and walked to his table. I stood there and said, "Excuse me." My husband was silent when I asked. After I introduced myself to his clients, if he'd take a few minutes to join me and the family in the candle blowing and say happy birthday, but he barely let out a phrase and said, "I don't think so. I'm busy right now." I insisted, saying it'd just take a couple minutes and that it'd mean so much to my sister. He stared at me and then awkwardly stared back at his clients. They said nothing and he got up after my parents were motioning me to hurry up. He sat with us while my sister blew the candles and cut the cake. My parents insisted that he takes a piece and join us in a selfie, but he got up and walked back to his table looking pissed. We didn't talk until we met later at home. He was upset and started scolding me in front of my parents, saying I embarrassed him and made him look unprofessional and ruined his business meeting. I told him that he overreacted since it only took a few minutes and it was my sister's birthday and my family wanted him to join since he was literally in the same restaurant. He called me ignorant and accused me of tampering with his work, but I responded that ignoring mine and my family's presence was unacceptable. We argued and then he started stonewalling me and refusing to talk to me at all. Also, it literally only took 5 to 7 minutes. He didn't even eat or drink, just sat down and watched. So, am I in the wrong for asking my husband to join us at my sister's birthday since he was in the same restaurant? I'm finally ready to leave my husband, but he can't understand why. My story is probably the opposite of anyone here, but for me it made sense even though it doesn't for my husband and the rest of the family. My husband cheated on me 5 years ago on a work trip. His colleague sent me the sex tape that she made. Apparently they slept together. She used the tape to get him to start the relationship with her, and when he refused, she exposed him to me. I was in utter shock. This just couldn't happen to us. How could he do this to me when he said that he loved me so much? I couldn't take the images out of my head. I was broken and paralyzed, I think, because while the normal reaction should have been to yell and shout and leave him, I just went into a depression and was too weak to take actions. He asked for marriage counseling, and for 2 years I lived in this depressed trance, and I honestly don't remember thinking of anything but my husband and his affair, seeing the images she sent me whenever I closed my eyes. After a few months, and with the therapist's recommendation, he tried to get intimate with me, but it just triggered my PTSD. I was so embarrassed to give him my body, when it wasn't enough for him. I felt so disgusted and ugly, and him touching me was so shameful. Like, why would he want something that wasn't enough? He tried to make me believe that I was beautiful and more than enough, and that it was him, not me, and it was never about me not being enough for him. But for me, it was all just lies and a bunch of gibberish. I knew for a fact I was disgusting, and I had proof. My husband's cheating. After 2 years, things were getting brighter. The nightmares and images started fading, and the individual and couples therapy did miracles. I started to love myself again, and sometimes I went days without thinking of my husband's affair. We started having sex again after 3 years, and while the image of him with her was always there, I thought that I just had to live with it. Here is where I might be weird. Now, 5 years later, I'm fully happy. Feel that I've gained back the control of my life, and I put the whole ordeal behind me. At the same time now, I feel that my marriage is over. My husband is in total disarray. Why now when we're finally happy again? When I'm back to being my old self and finally over what he did? I even forgave him. I did, but I don't understand his confusion. For me now, I'm happy and strong again. I feel I want more. For myself, from life, and from the man that I share my life with. I couldn't leave when I was too weak to think properly and without the bias. I couldn't leave when I didn't have the free will, consumed by grief. Why can't he see it was a healthy way of thinking, not making decisions while hurting? I'm 35 now. I want to start a family. I want to start this family with someone who would never have done this to me. Doesn't this make sense? Part 2, telling my wife she'll respect our daughter not wanting to meet her girlfriend because she made it this way. So I talked to Harley's mom, and I said that 1, she needs to go to therapy with someone who doesn't choose someone's side and someone who helps her see the point of view, but I'm not willing to do that with her, and that's something she needs to do on her own. 2, if she continues this, you ruin any chance with her, and as a mom, she made the decision to protect her, not be the reason that she needs protection. 3, I hope that 1 and 2 sunk in, because I'm not going to be here to pick up the pieces for her shitty behavior. And now more than ever is the time to redeem herself, if she even can, because we are absolutely getting a divorce. The most I can say is, it was not taken well. I talked to Harley. I explained that we're getting a divorce. None of this is on her, and it never was. But she needs a choice not to deal with this anymore. And I want her to do the little things, and feel free to bring around anyone she wants to, and not be worried of her parents' reaction. I said this doesn't mean that the relationship is over. I'll still be right here with her to try and redeem any relationship with her mom if she wants me to. But it's no one else's job but her mother's to fix her issues. I said again this wasn't her fault, and it was my fault to go on with this. She was sad at first, but she came to terms with this. I stayed in a hotel for a while, and Harley had some fun with my brother. I got a little house quick, and quickly started moving everything I could. Harley got to decorate her new room. I got her into therapy too. Her mom is still swearing that Harley is going to hell. Harley needs confession. She's insulted and cursed Harley in person, then tried to act like a sweet, caring mother in text and voicemail. She tried saying that I'm the abusive one. She said that I was forcing her to like girls. She said I was going to hell. A shit father and husband. Threatened to take Harley away permanently and much more. I think she took this as a challenge. As I said before, I gave Harley the choice to stay with me or 50-50, etc. With her age, there's a good chance that she gets to choose, especially given the circumstances. I think she forgot what it was like to not walk on eggshells. After a week, she said that she thinks she wants to stay with me and just visit her mom with no sleepovers. I've seen a lot more of her girlfriend around the house, and it's clear that Harley is much more comfortable in her own skin and sexuality. Things are still hectic, but are looking up. I, 16 male, was born to my mom when she was 15, and I've never known my real dad. My mom didn't drop out of school or anything, and the year after I was born, she started dating Jack, and when they went to university, I obviously got left behind with my grandparents. Mom and Jack got good degrees, got married, and moved to a city by Vancouver. My mom's always been in my life. She would still come home every weekend just to cuddle me, and she would always give me these nicknames, but calling me her special guy would be her favorite one. She'd always bring me back presents and gifts and spend the whole time playing with me. She's the one who paid for my tutoring and after school stuff, and would try and make it to games and stuff like that. Jack wouldn't always come with her, but it was always fun when he would. He's taken me fishing with him a lot of times, and we even went camping for 2 weeks together once, but never again because I hate camping. However, when I was 10, my mom and Jack had a daughter, and then another girl 3 years ago. I don't really know them, especially because my mom stopped coming over as much after they were born. We don't cuddle anymore. We did that on my birthday, but that's it. No more cute nicknames for me except special guy. It's like they all got transferred to her daughters. No more gifts, and the worst part is she doesn't come to my games anymore. It was okay with me before, because they still had a spare room in their house, and I could go there when it's time for university. Yesterday, my mom FaceTimed me, and she had a big announcement that she was going to have another baby, and it was a boy, and now she'd have 2 special guys. I guess she saw how sour my face was because she asked what's wrong, and I don't know, I just admitted how jealous I was that her daughters got so much more, and now her son was going to get her, and there wouldn't even be space for me when I had to go to university. And I guess what I said affected her because she started crying and wouldn't stop, and I had to hang up. My grandparents are mad that I made her upset and think that I don't value value them now or something. Jack phoned me and he's mad because my mom thinks it's a mistake now to have another kid, and also mad at me because he was like, why would I ever think that they wouldn't have room for me? I feel like I really messed up by telling her that, and now here I am at school and I can't stop thinking about it. My husband of 5 years asked me for a threesome with my best friend and she agreed. I, 26 female, met my husband, 35 male, 7 years ago, and we have been married for 5 of those years. I love my husband and all that he's done for me, but I fear that my marriage and my relationship with my best friend is now over. Not to mention, I just found out that I'm pregnant, and this only started happening after I told my husband. He was very much on board with having a child with me, and we've been trying for around 6 months. For context, my best friend, 28 female, Mia, knew my husband before me and they were incredibly close before I even knew him. When I first met my husband, I suspected there was something going on between them, but they always denied it. However, they admitted while they were drunk that they were indeed sleeping together before I got with my husband. Even though it's not important now, it still plays on my mind, you know? Especially considering what just happened. 2 weeks ago, my husband suggested a threesome for the first time and I was already not on board with it. I quickly said no and hoped he'd never bring it up again. 2 days after, he suggested it again, and I once again declined. He asked that night after we had sex once again, and I said no. After that, he stopped asking me and I thought that was the end of it. However, 3 days ago, he asked me out to lunch and I was pretty excited considering he never takes me out on dates anymore. When we got to the restaurant, my best friend was sitting there and was confused because he never mentioned that she'd be there. The vibe was good from the start, to be honest, but I tried not to think of it. Halfway through the lunch, my husband asked me again. I want to consider the idea of a threesome again, and I thought it would be a good idea if Mia was involved. I didn't know what to say. I asked Mia if she knew about this and she said yes and that she'd known about this plans for over a month. I was devastated. I said no, paid for my meal and left in my car. I feel so betrayed and hurt right now and I have no words. This man is meant to be the father of my child, but I can't even look at him. I've been staying with my mom and he's been phoning and calling me dramatically and saying that he'll drop it. Mia has been spamming me too, saying the same thing. I don't know what to do. My boyfriend said I don't truly love him if I'm not letting him live his life, including flirting with other girls and dating others. We've been together on and off for 5 years. Met in 2018, and 3 months later I found out that he was talking to someone else. Then he went to another country and we were long distance. I've always worried that he would leave me. I'm not good enough because of my mental health. I found out that he was going on dates with another girl in said country from a gut feeling. Ended up with him confessing that he wants to break up. We broke up in June 2019, but after stalking, I realized that they had been dating since March 2019. I was turned and became obsessive with their relationship. We didn't speak for a whole year. Reconnected early 2021 after they broke up. Started dating and it was okay, until I broke down knowing that he was going on an exchange to another country this year. I told him my fears about him finding someone else and replacing me. He said I'm too insecure, and he doubted if I really love him. He said love should be unconditional, and I should be happy if he's happy. He said he wants freedom, and he wants me to be in his life forever. But why can't I be happy if he's happy dating other girls? Why would I limit his life? He said it to me as if it's a favor that he didn't see anyone else this past 2 years. He even told me out of frustration that he would just rather live his life, date, and sleep with other girls, and if I truly loved him then I would stay. I can't let go of this and I'm feeling extremely depressed. All my friends are polyamorous, so I suspect that they would think that this is okay, and I'm an asshole for limiting my boyfriend's life experience. So, am I in the wrong for feeling this way? I, 46 female, have a daughter, 17 female in senior year, who has become so lazy in the past 5 months. Has only been going to school and coming back and sleeping. I was worried about her grades recently, so I called her teacher and she informed me that she was still ahead in all of her classes, though she had other concerns. Her teacher has told me that she was worried about her as she is completely changed and doesn't speak now. Walks in and out of class whilst avoiding her friends. Even though her friends sit with her, she would just ignore them completely. She used to be talkative, friendly at school, and would always hang out with the same people. Her best friend that she's known for 8 years has been trying to reach her alongside her other friends, and she arrived at my door a couple of days ago, asking if she could see her, and my daughter would always be asleep or say she isn't in the mood. I spoke with my daughter to see if they did, and she just said they haven't done anything and she just can't stand anyone anymore. From doing nothing but sleeping, she's become so frail. Though after nearly 4 months into the semester, I have told her repeatedly that she will not be anything in life if she carries on this way. She would just ignore me or lock her room so I can't come in, or if she's annoyed, she will start arguing with me. On Sunday, I went to work, though before I put her basket of newly washed clothes outside of her room and told her to fold it so that she can put it in her wardrobe, and I told her that it better be done before I arrive. She gave a faint okay. I came back a couple hours later to find the basket in the same spot unfolded. I knocked for minutes on end and she just told me to stop. I don't know what came over me, but I got the crowbar from the back and started to take off her lock. After completely denting it, the side facing me came off after a couple of tries and I twisted the bolt. I brought her basket in after finding her standing up behind the door. I proceeded to yell at her and she starts crying, which she hasn't done for a while. We start yelling and saying hurtful things to each other for a while, and after her calling me a monster and failure of a mom, I told her that I would have never had you if you turned out this way. She was clearly taken aback by it, though in the moment it was the truth. All she does is nothing. She just walked out of the house for a couple of hours doing God knows what, though she's been acting completely different since Sunday. She would listen to me and actually leave the house. Every time I came into her room, she would be writing a manuscript. Though it all feels wrong and inauthentic, she seems to have been upset by it deeply. Maybe it's good, as she is now being how I want her to be, though I understand how that could be misconstrued. I can tell that she's trying hard to avoid me, though is still being really friendly. So, am I in the wrong for telling my daughter that I would never have had you if you turned out this way? I, 25 female, have a 2-year-old son from a previous relationship. After I gave birth, I was asked about birth control. I said yes please, and now I have Nexplanon, a birth control that gets inserted into your upper arm. I was told it lasts 3 years. Cut to now, my fiance 27 male told me that he wants a baby. I said I did too, just not now, and that I get my birth control out after the 3 years are up and I won't replace it. This wasn't soon enough for him. He wanted me pregnant now. I stood firm and said I'm not ready to have another baby. I want to be a little bit more stable, money-wise and in general. Fiance was mad and we got into a big argument. I brought up my son and told him how my son sees him as a father figure and that we already have a child to take care of when my birth control runs its course. All of a sudden he started shouting at me, saying he wanted a baby that's biologically his and that every time he looks at my son he gets angry. I asked him why and he told me it's because he sees my ex in my son. My son looks a lot like his father. He then went on to tell me that he doesn't feel like a parental figure to my son. He has no personal attachment to him. He says it's because my son isn't biologically his and he resents us for this. Hence the baby talk. He wanted my arm implant out immediately. I said no way, I'm not ready for another baby yet. We continue to argue about this until I'm finally tired and frustrated, so I say I'm done arguing and just head into our bedroom. An important fact to know is that I take medication to sleep, a pretty strong medication with a high dosage. It knocks me flat on my ass. The Sandman comes and slaps me across the face, so I'm down for the count. After the argument, I take my pills and go to bed. My fiance was still in the living room when I fell into a deep sleep. Now, another important fact. My fiance knows where my implant is, as it's very noticeable when you're feeling around for it. I'm sleeping when I stir slightly awake after I felt fingers on my upper arm, prodding. With my eyes still shut, I tell my fiance to stop poking me. I assumed he was just being petty and childish because of the fight. He doesn't stop, and 5 seconds after poking me, he presses down in the exact spot my Nexplanon is. At this point, I'm starting to get more alert and annoyed. I just wanted to sleep and I can't do that when I'm being jabbed. The minute I open my eyes, I notice that an object in his free hand, a box cutter, which was very close to my upper arm. Now I'm on full alert and ask him what the fuck he's doing. He immediately looks guilty and tries to throw excuses at me. I was just trying to scare you. I was just checking to make sure that you were alive and it's a coincidence I'm holding the box cutter. I called BS on every excuse and said I wanted the truth. He looked down and then told me that he was doing me a favor. What favor? Glad you asked. He was going to remove the Nexplanon from my arm. He said he's studied how to do it and he's confident that he can safely remove it. He said, "We can start expanding our family now. No need to wait 8 months." I am livid. I immediately shout to him to get the F away from me and don't touch me. He tries to talk to me, but I keep yelling until he leaves. He can't stay at our house right now because he admitted that he was trying to cut into my arm, thus breaking my trust. Finally, he walked out of the bedroom and a minute later, I heard the front door open and close. It's been 3 hours and he still hasn't come back and I don't know what to do when he does. I don't know where we're going from here. I love this man dearly, but I don't think I can forgive and forget this. I don't know what to do. Please give me some advice. Part 2. My ex tried to cut my implant out while I was asleep. I ended up leaving last night with my son to stay at my mom's. I was confused, shocked, hurt, scared. I still am. At 7 this morning, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Texts, calls, voicemails, all were from him, asking me where I went and when I was coming home. I just don't even want to look at him or talk to him again. He called my mom while we were both sitting in the kitchen discussing everything. She asked me if I wanted her to answer it. I said I just didn't want to talk to him. My mom ended up answering and my ex was yelling, sounding panicky. He said I left with my son last night out of the blue and he's worried. No mention of our fight. He asked when my mom last heard of me and she lied and said last night. He made a noise over the phone, like angry sigh, and he said that he was going to keep searching for me. That he's worried something bad has happened or will happen to me and my son. When my mom hung up, she pulled me into a hug. I guess I had started crying and didn't realize it. She was still hugging me when she asked how I wanted to proceed, if I was done with him for good. I said I was. She nodded and told me the first thing I was going to do was go to the police. I didn't have any proof about the box cutter situation. It would come down to my word versus his. If he had even nicked me a little, I'd have a case against him. But since he technically didn't hurt me, the detective said he's seen cases similar to mine thrown out. The officer did bring up ex parties and suggested I get one for both me and my son immediately. I went to the courthouse to get the paperwork filled out. I had to detail as much as I could remember from last night. Every word in action. My mom helped me and we got them turned in and moved into the next step, calling my landlord. I've been living in the same house for 2 years. The first year was a lease and now I pay month to month. Everything is in my name and most of the furniture is mine. I told my landlord what was briefly going on and that I was putting in my 30-day notice. My mom has a guest room and she's insisting that I stay in. After getting off the phone with him, I called the utilities and closed my accounts, water, electric, gas, internet. Next, my mother asked me what I want to do about my belongings. I told her that I don't want to leave anything that's mine. All important papers, knickknacks, clothes, furniture, all of it. I just didn't know where to put it, so my mom suggested a storage unit. Mom ended up calling my 2 brothers and they both agreed to help me move. I told them definitely sometime this week and my eldest brother suggested a police presence, just in case. Think it's called a civil standby? The county clerk ended up calling me, telling me that the judge granted my ex parties. She told me that I needed to come pick up the paperwork, which had the court date on it. She also mentioned ex-fiance would soon be served and told me that I don't have to see him again until we go to court to make the ex parties into permanent restraining orders. She suggested lawyering up, but I'm officially burnt out on today. I'll look into lawyers tomorrow. I, 24 female, have been with my husband, 31 male, for 4 years. I was pregnant when we met and he had 2 kids from a previous marriage, 9 female and 7 male. It started off great and he really stepped up for my daughter. His son, we'll call Bubba, has ADHD and has caused a lot of behavior issues. While I was pregnant, Bubba would have meltdowns that often resulted in him hitting and kicking me. My husband would be at work during this time, and that left me to be the only adult to handle it. Eventually, I got to the point where I had to tell my husband for the baby's safety that Bubba has to go to his mom's house when my husband is at work. Eventually, I have the baby and she's perfect. Bubba seems to calm down and starts keeping to himself. We try and keep him part of our daily life, but chalk it up to growing up and not wanting to spend all day with his dad. Then COVID hits. My husband's job has him working 1 week in the office and 1 week at home, and I lose my job. We were still financially in a good position and agreed that we wanted to have another baby. I get pregnant in June and things seem to be going well. Then Bubba has a breakdown and starts threatening to hurt himself, and I tell my husband that he needs to get him in therapy. My husband communicates that to his ex-wife, who refuses because every time Bubba has gone in the past, he's refused to speak and has been dismissed. My husband didn't want to rock the boat because his exes don't withhold the children, and we decided to research management and try on our own. Come Christmas time, Bubba is threatening to hurt him, having panic attacks, and hurting my now 1-year-old. He set mouse traps and hid them throughout our toys. When asked why, he admitted that he was hoping that she would snap her fingers. My husband grounded him, but not much else came of it. He continued this behavior and I started to fear him. He pointed a bow and arrow at someone who made him mad one time and then said he had ADHD and he couldn't control himself. It has caused major problems in my marriage, but we always worked through it until Bubba was caught looking at adult materials online, and the searches were primarily SA and stepsister. I left the house after finding this out with my daughters and gone for about a week. My husband had the birds and bees talk with him and claims that he just didn't understand what he was searching, but he watched the videos and is known to lie, so I didn't accept that. I told my mom and she said, honestly, if you leave him, you'll still be required to send the girls for visits. And other than Bubba, you're happy in your marriage, so just stay. Bubba has continued to hurt himself and scream while also hurting anyone in his way during a meltdown. I honestly am scared of him, but I know if I leave, I'm just now leaving my babies now 3 and 1 alone with him. I've tried telling his mom, who just blames my husband for the behaviors, and my husband thinks I'm overreacting by saying that he needs to be committed. Do I stay and take the risk knowing I'll be happy once he's gone, or do I leave and risk sending my girls unprotected during visits? I don't know what to do. Please help. I have an autistic 14-year-old daughter who has terrible hygiene. I have to fight with her to get her to shower, brush her teeth, and clean up after herself during her period. It is disgusting. Blood everywhere and the constant washing of her underwear. She sees no problem with her inability to clean herself up. I told her that people are going to bully her in school if she smells that bad and that it's hard to recover from that socially, and she ignored me. Well, she had her period last week. I picked her clothing and allowed her to wear white pants. I wanted to see if she would clean up after herself so that the pants would be clean when she came back home. Before I could even drop her off, the pants were red. I stayed silent. I dropped her off like normal. She needed to learn how these types of situations will impact her social life if she continued to live like a slob. She came home in tears. The kids were ruthless. She was mocked for her strong smell and the red on her pants. It hurt me to see her like this, but I was not seeing the changes that had to be made. For the rest of the week, she took good care of herself. There were no stains, she showered herself, and would spray perfume to maintain a flowery scent. My husband and I fought about this though. He called me some very hurtful words because of my choice. He said I handled it poorly and that she'll probably be paying for this for the rest of the school year. However, I see it as a life lesson, and it actually yields results unlike my husband's soft approach. So, am I in the wrong for setting up my daughter to be bullied in school? My boyfriend Freddie, 30 male, and Callum, 29 male, have been best friends since college. They were roommates and graduated together, and all that stuff. Me, 30 female, and Freddie have been dating for 6 years, and we're getting married next January. We're incredibly happy, and we can't wait to have a fabulous wedding. We both deal with anxiety because we have a very high profile and demanding jobs, so we agreed to have a small wedding, simple, relaxed, and stress-free. I've shared spaces with Callum at my boyfriend's family events, parties, and he hangs out with my boyfriend a fair amount of the time. He's great. I like him. Here's the issue though. Callum does this thing where he sits or stands very still and stares into space for a long time. Freddie told me it's a thing called catatonia. I call that just zooming out, or disassociating as Gen Z said. The problem is that my boyfriend usually babysits him when this happens. I mean, he stays right next to him the whole time. I thought it was like a nice, cute gesture, but on the day of our wedding, I mean, really? That sounds like the opposite of our dream day. He's even taller than my boyfriend, so just imagine a 6'4" guy standing in the middle of our reception next to the groom. Here's the conflict. I talked this privately with Callum, just me and him, and he agreed that he would be a distraction. He declined the invitation. I asked him not to tell anything to my boyfriend, and he said that he would be too embarrassed to say anything. I said, please don't feel embarrassed. I know it's not your fault. And we left it at that, very friendly and politely. I told him that he's more than welcome to join us for our Christmas dinner, because I know that he's not close with his family. And like I said, I like him. I told my boyfriend that Callum declined, and he was disappointed, but he agreed that less guests fitted our idea with a small, low-key, relaxed wedding. So it was still perfect. The next day, I told my mom, my sister, and my maid of honor, and they were visibly upset with me. My mom said it was an a-holy move and that it was ableist, but I don't think that's true because it's not really a disability. I think it's more about his personality and his thing that I know is going to take a toll on my boyfriend that day. I want to make sure that I was not a horrible person to pacify my conscience. So, am I in the wrong for uninviting a friend to my wedding so my boyfriend doesn't have to take care of him? Part 2. I uninvited a friend to my wedding so my boyfriend doesn't have to take care of him. I'm going to try to keep this simple. I was an ableist. I did something horrible to Callum. I did something unforgivable to him, actually. I took away his agency and I didn't see him as a person, the lovable person that my future husband cares so much about, and I did something horrible to the person that I love. The a-hole tag is right, and the advice that I got was so much appreciated. My first instinct should have been to speak directly to the two guys, the guy I love and the guy that my future husband loves. I was called out yesterday, and instead of going directly to them, my first thought was, Oh, I need to learn from a reliable resource. I should talk to a doctor before talking to Callum. And it's fucked up that even after all of that happened, I was still thinking just about myself. My sister called me yesterday to offer her help again, and that was another wake-up call for me. I talked and apologized to Freddie last night. He was honestly more worried about Callum above anything else. He said he wasn't hurt by the lie. He always sees the best in others. That man's heart is too big for his own good. He just blamed my behavior on pre-wedding anxiety, but I told him that it was definitely more than that. I talked to Callum yesterday too, and he was kind enough to literally take an Uber and come to our place ASAP first thing in the morning, without any question. After I apologized, he was crying. Don't want to get into details, but he was clearly hurt by what I did. And at the same time, he was very relieved that my apology came rather quickly. He told me, "I knew you had a good heart." I told him it took a whole village to wake me up. He apologized for downplaying his condition with me. He said he often does that to avoid freaking people out. That hit me like a brick. Cal and Fred shared some tears too. If the wedding happens, Callum will be there. From our long conversation, Freddie thinks that anxiety is too high right now, and he wants to hire a wedding planner to help manage the workload. I told him that I'm probably going to need therapy too, because I can't blame ableism, stupidity, and lack of empathy on being stressed out. We're not going to get married in January. The venue allows us to reschedule. We might do that if it's possible. That's the only thing that I know for certain. I feel like I failed at marriage even before starting, and I failed at loving my new family too. I got the quick Google search comment a lot, but if you Google catatonia, it says a group of symptoms with different possible reasons. Then it jumps straight ahead to heavy stuff. Like, at the time, when I Googled it, I thought it was a symptom. I didn't know the difference between syndrome and disease and condition. It sounds incredibly stupid to write this, but in my head, it wasn't different than people getting motion sickness. Cal and Fred always acted as if it was something usual, and it was something that you'd expect from time to time. So I definitely normalized that. Freddie's friend also acted that way, in the sense that every time Cal had an episode, they'd be like, "Oh, again? That's classic Cal. Oh damn, we can't leave the party because Callum is doing his thing. Cancel the Uber." You know, mostly joking about it. And of course, Freddie was always there to take care of him. Now I understand why that was so important. He's incredibly susceptible at that state, and it can't be disturbed, and he needs to be watched. Of course, Cal lives most of his life without Fred, and when that happens when Fred is not around, so yeah, he has no choice but to be susceptible all by himself. I bit my boyfriend's member because he wouldn't stop head pushing, but now I feel really guilty. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but it's keeping me up. We've known each other for about 6 months and started hooking up in October. The head pushing has never been a problem until a few weeks ago. I don't mind a little, but he gets so aggressive that it hurts. I've communicated with him in more ways than one that I don't like how aggressive he is. I'll stop him when he's doing it just for him to resume not even a minute later. I told him during and outside of it, so I really don't think I could have been any more clear. Earlier today, I was going down on him and he started again. Like usual, I moved his hands off my head. I told him to be gentle. I told him it hurts when he does it all within 5 minutes. He just wouldn't stop. At first, I just bit down a little with my front teeth. That didn't work, so I bit the head with my molars. Not that hard, probably enough to break a baby carrot. He yelled and pushed me off of him and started asking what the hell was wrong with me. I told him that he's the one that can't do one single thing that I've asked him so many times not to do when I'm doing something for him. He kept telling me that it doesn't matter, that you should never do that to anyone, blah blah blah. We bickered for a couple minutes and he eventually left while calling me dirty names on his way out. I honestly wasn't expecting to do it. I'm just so tired of having my boundaries broken. I've been extremely clear and direct when telling him to simply not push my head. I don't understand why that's so hard to comprehend. Is there something that I'm not understanding? Does it make the head better? I just feel like I'm doing this one and only thing for him. I get no pleasure out of it. I don't even like doing it. It just feels so dirty and so disrespectful with the amount of times I had to ask him not to. But I can't help but to feel bad. I'm worried that I might have hurt him more than I intended to. I don't want to call or message him, but I don't even know where he is right now. I don't know if I should have taken a different approach to this because I don't know if our relationship will come. My best friend's husband confessed his feelings for me. Her life was very difficult and she says she's finally happy, so how do I tell her? Mia, 32, and I, 32, met in college and we were best friends ever since. Mia was always very family oriented and romantic, even when she was a kid. Her ultimate life dream was to have a big, happy family. Sadly, Mia had a very difficult childhood. She lost her entire family, younger sister and both parents, from ages 10 to 12. She was in the system for a while until her abusive uncle took her in. Obviously, Mia was and is very mentally unwell, and just a few months ago, she managed to get off her meds and stop going to therapy. Mia and her husband, Rick, 34, are together for 2 years now and married for 6 months. In my opinion, it was all a bit rushed, but Mia was scared that she wouldn't be able to have children if she waited, and to be honest, Rick seemed to be her perfect match. She was aware things were going faster than she initially wanted, but reassured me that her and Rick are on the same page. It's her life after all, so if she's happy, so am I. Rick and I neither love nor hate each other. He's my friend's husband, so at best we tolerate one another. We don't have any common interests and our lifestyle goals are very different. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. Mia and Rick organized a party and invited me and my partner, 31, to join. Everything seemed fine. Rick and I were chatting with some friends when I decided to go outside to breathe in some fresh air. Rick followed a few minutes later. We casually talked about some irrelevant things when he suddenly says that he's in love with me. I thought it was just one of his stupid jokes and I was totally blindsided by it, so I just laughed. Joked back and hoped that he will drop it. Sadly, he just doubled down and got visibly upset. Started saying how he doesn't want to spend another year unhappy and how being with Mia is exhausting because of her trauma and that he deserves better than that. At this point, I got very nauseous and just wanted to get away from it all. So I told him that he has no idea what he's saying and we'll talk about it once he gets his shit together. Mia and Rick are trying for a baby, so I obviously have to tell her as soon as possible. The thing is, I have no idea how to do that. How do you approach a person to tell her the best part of her life is a lie? How do you address something like this with the person who spent the vast majority of her life on antidepressants and being suicidal? I don't even know if she'll believe me. I also don't want to lose her as a friend, but I can't watch her be all happy and giddy about him when I know that he doesn't even fucking respect her. There are times I think just to ignore it all and never mention it, but I know that this isn't right. Part 2. My best friend's husband confessed that he has feelings for me. Shortly after, Rick called to apologize for his behavior. He said he never meant for it to come out, but that he's very unhappy with his marriage and now he sees no escape with the baby on the way. He then said he would never be this confused about his feelings if Mia didn't have feelings for my boyfriend, on which they have been trying to work on for a while, but he's so exhausted from it all that he just wants to end it. He said that he's confused about his feelings for me, but he also wanted to hurt her so that she can see what she's putting him through and how painful it is to be in love with somebody who's a constant in their lives. Basically, he tried to spin the entire thing on Mia's trauma. I told him if he's so unhappy with his choices, he can just leave without vicious lies and that he didn't have any reason to put me or my boyfriend in the middle of this. He just said that he didn't mean for it to happen and we ended the call on that. I went to Mia afterwards and told her about Rick's confession. Obviously, she was heartbroken about this, but seemed to accept it at face value. I then told her what Rick said in the call since I thought she deserves to know that he's making stuff up behind her back. That's when she broke down and said that she had no idea how it happened. She would never act on it anyways. And that Rick was never supposed to tell me about it, but that's something between them that they are so close to resolving. She said she saw how my partner treats me and my kid and how that's something that she desperately wants but is just so unlucky. Call me selfish, but if we were friends as I believe we were, I would expect her to come forward with this, trauma related or not. It isn't just between Rick and Mia. It involves other people now that were unwillingly put into this entire situation. She spent one-on-one time with my partner so many times and she never felt bad enough to tell me, or at least to attempt to stay away from him and give me some fake reason for it. I know she needs support right now, but I can't do this. I simply can and won't, and if I'm an a-hole for it, then so be it. I'm fine with a stupid crush. We're all only humans, and especially with her history, I would 100% understand to help her out if she came to me about it. Lying and the betrayal that went on for years on the other hand, I simply cannot forgive that easily, especially after everything we've been through and the things that she knows that I've been through. I told her that I need some space. She tried to call me after I left, but I'm too tired to talk to her at all and I can't see myself doing so anytime soon.